You know, I was originally a promoter for the industry long ago, and I always learned that that the transport on sea was actually more unpredictable than on waterways, because, you know, if you have a headwind coming from China, you know, your journey could take 2-3 days longer than you anticipated. But anyway, that's a minor detail. Yeah.
Yes, no, it works. I had a client some years ago. He told me some years ago that he is shipping something from China. He gets that time you got an SMS. I got an SMS when the good is arriving the port of Shanghai. I get an SMS when the container in that end is leaving the port of Shanghai. I get an SMS when the container is arriving in Rotterdam. And then it's a black hole, and I can't see anything, and sometimes the container, I don't know when, is arriving at my warehouse.
Okay. So then you solved that problem at Contago?
Yes, for him we solved that,
okay.
But having the uncertainty that you really get your appointments, that's you couldn't solve at that time. No.
Maybe I could start with Martijn. Martijn, you heard several really concrete and very vivid visual presentations from economic operators. You've done all the studying. So on the final conclusion, what kind of, going on what these people say, what kind of digitalization efforts we should prioritize? Any idea going on them?
Well, thanks for the presentations, and what struck me most is I think it's about business, transporting goods, and we're more in facilitating that by infrastructure, and we can't fill the rivers with bits and bytes, so the water levels are constant, but we can offer data, and of course we really need to dive into the business to governmental data exchange. But for example, this container that's arriving in the seaports, I think that's really also a business thing, and we can facilitate in it. But hopefully, I think Herfried made a good point. Business companies are in charge of business processes.
But I think, you know, in terms of EURIS, giving more visibility, transparency of how the infrastructure is working, any hiccups or whatever, I think there is still a lot of need to present this to these to these economic operators. That's what I took from, especially from the presentation from Herfried.
Yeah, I think that's correct, and you may react to that. But RIS is already here for a couple of years, so we already provide information on the water levels and the notice to skippers. And I think Peter Oudenaars in the afternoon will explain what are the new features. But I think there needs to be some cooperation between business and government on this.
Peter can aptly present that. I want to, if you like, please go.
I just would like to shortly reflect on what you just said, Martin. I think the information which is provided in RIS and in EURIS, is according to my understanding, it is below any kind of basic information I'm talking about. Yeah, if you go in EURIS, for example, today, and you're looking at the worst bottlenecks, I mean, you don't find them there. You don't find the worst bottlenecks on the Danube in EURIS to look at. So you have to go on other homepages. You are ending up at Cyrillic homepages, which you have to you have to translate it. I mean, that cannot not be right. I mean, that's impossible. I think so. And
there is some data quality issues still to be solved. To cut it short.
Right, it is extreme. Yes, and it is also a question about. You have to, authorities have to translate the information to the private businesses. It is, I mean, if you ask 10 shipping companies, what is EURIS? How are you using the EURIS? Or what idea do you have to use EURIS in the future? I mean, there was no, 9 will answer you, what is EURIS?
Yeah, okay.
But that's the only ones who are sitting here who know
that was my
about
point.
It.
Yeah. Then I want to switch to Sim. I have a really difficult question for you. Yeah, I see you sweating now. No, but if I listen closely to what Herfried told about the Danube, the challenges on the Rhine, and then if you compare them to the Danube, are quite different. That must be a balancing act here in Brussels. How do you take into account all these variations between challenges, and still we need this central line of digitization having an added value for all these estuaries, all these rivers. Can you make a little comment on this? Because if I listen closely to Herfried, it's rather gloomy, and when I look at the Rhine, there is lots of opportunities.
Yes. The question is still okay. It's
Okay.
not. It's not that difficult for me. As a commission, I always, as a representative of the commission, I always refer to the NAIADES III action plan. This is our policy framework, and if you have a good look at that action plan, you see that we address several topics. And of course, yesterday, we were talking about automated navigation, and there are a lot of EU projects going on about that, and they mainly focus on Western Europe, on the Rhine corridor. If you look at the Donau countries, I'm not saying that they are lacking behind, but they are at a different stage. There it's more an issue about hard infrastructure. So, of course, as a commission, we have to have a global, Europe look. But I think with the NAIADES action plan, we are addressing the difficulties of the different regions in Europe. So I think we will get there.
I'm sure we will. We must. Dalibor, maybe I can switch to you. You've seen a very broad presentation of Martijn with all sorts of topics being addressed. In your view, what kind of digitization or digital initiative or topic should have the highest priority from your business processes point of view? Where should we put our money?
That's a very difficult question because it's, I think it's a build-up, and it starts with getting the data available, like I said, in the secure and trusted way. And from that point and the trust that you build, you can go forward in eventually eliminating business-to-government declarations or centralizing them and eliminating the paper. So not digitalizing the paper, but eliminating it. So just by making the data available.
So if I would cut it short or summarize it, it is really about getting rid of the paper in whatever form.
Essentially, yes.
So that would be a big reduction of administrative burden.
Yeah, it would be a big help, and it fixes a big frustration.
I always find it difficult to put a money number on it. What kind of productivity gains would we take from such an effort?
That's always a difficult question with digitalization. I usually talk in terms of value, and that's bigger than just money. So I can't put a number if you ask me how much will it profit us. But I will say it will save us some frustration, a lot of frustration. It will help in smoothening processes, and it will help break down barriers in working together. And I think you can't put a price on that.
And actually, Martijn, I'll come to you. Maybe Martijn, can you give because we last night had a discussion about this. You know, can you put a value? Can you put a money number on this? Can you work with this remark? You know, you could even value or evaluate frustration maybe in this equation.
No, it's hard to put a number in euros on it. But it's also about value for IWT, sustainability, and everybody in Europe. So if we provide good quality of data that can be used in business processes, then the business gains profit of, and in the end, the EU itself.
Heinrich.
Yes, I just wanted to add there at this subject because I remember the times when we had all these things also with customs documents and so on. But when you look at this thing with the unloading document, the shipper has to wait. That's frustrating, and it costs 1 hour, 2 hours per week. that's money you can estimate. When you, other thing is that the guy at the port has to be there, which is personal costs, and he's not Friday afternoon at 1900. He's not doing other work, so that's extra cost for the people using in the navigation. So when you eliminate that, that's not only frustration of the shipper. It's getting less cost in the whole system waterway, and that's the important thing. When you add that all together, that will be a huge amount of money and become more attractive for the whole sector.
So in a way, you can put a value on it,
Yeah,
but
yes,
then there's
but
always also the immaterial part.
Do some research on that. We've got 15,500 vessels in whole Europe, and you wait when in average 1 hour per week, everyone has to wait, and you can calculate then it will be 500 euros per hour. Then you have a value. When you want to monetize it.
You're very experienced at selling these kinds of projects to your board, you know, I guess. Yeah. Maybe we can move on. But by the way, to going to your neighbor, what kind of digitization, apart from the hard infrastructure, because that is a challenge, what kind of digitization initiative or project would you value the highest if you would have to rank them in terms of priority? It's basically the same question I asked to Dalibor.
You mean for private businesses, or,
Yeah,
or
sure.
you
You're
mean
not talking for the
we
government.
wish to have?
Just from your business point of view.
I think our key to success in the future is to provide a picture about the whole transport chain, the whole supply chain to our customers. So it means the interaction in between the different actors through a logistics service provider with the customer. This is what we are aiming for, and that goes for any kind of digitalization, what Dalibor mentioned, but also goes precisely there what Heinrich mentioned.
It is really about supply chain visibility.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, this is what customers are asking us for. This is what customers are paying us for. They're not paying for a stupid truck from A to B, or for a vessel to go from port to port. No, they are paying us. They are paying us a premium in order to have a full overview about their supply chain and make their planning easier. And what the planning costed in 2018 at the big drought period, to BASF in Germany or whatever. I mean, some university have worked that out, so you can see how many billions we are talking about.
So supply chain visibility, e-documents, or whatever form you have also something high on your priority list, or would you concur, would you agree with your colleagues?
What's very high on our priority list is that we have to go out of the chaos organization when there is low water, when there is blockings and things like that, into a planned deviation management. That costs money. We should be part of the product, because what we are doing mostly in the last 50 years, or I was in the business for 30 years now, what we did in the last 30 years is that when there was low water or there was high water, we said, sorry to our customers, now you have to wait, or you have to pay. And that is not the solution anymore, because you can't sell that to my example Chinese guy. And for that we have to find planned deviation management, which is also priced in.
Could you
and
give us an
that we can
example?
always provide a solution.
Could you give us an example of planned deviation management?
Yeah, we had just the example of the BASF 2018, where they lost a lot of money because they had to stop some part of their production. But okay, we were not delivering in any liquids, so but with the containers, I can tell you that we then offered them a trucking bridge between Ludwigshafen and Koblenz. And in Koblenz there was enough water that we could use the shipping again. And then we did also some special couple push barges, so that we put 4 together, and we could deliver the same tonnage as one train, even with the water level of 28 centimeters.
Any questions from the room? Because I've been looking at the room every now and then, but I see Manfred Zeitz. Manfred, I'll give you the microphone. Pleased to see you again after COVID. Long time no see. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm spending more time in Ukraine and Romania at the moment. But still interested in the progress of river information services and the rollout, because when in 2006 via DONAG we implemented more or less stories, we thought we have it, because transponders mandatory, exchange, data exchange, involvement of border control using and so on. And then we thought, okay, one or two rollout project, here is one, here is two, we'll do it, and then we have the whole corridor covered. Did not happen, as I learned today and several times ago. But what would be my question to the gentleman here? I have no worries that the digital collaboration along the logistic chain between the private actors is taking place. Yeah? So I'm a little bit worried about the speed of coming in into this chain of information by the authorities. Yeah? And how do you see, are you satisfied with the efforts of the governments in becoming an information node, in adding information for your supply chain execution, border control, customs control, ports? Where are they at the moment? I can give you an answer for the Danube, but I would like to hear how is this seen in particular in Western Europe.
Let's go from left to right. Maybe we can start with Dalibor. Dalibor, any thoughts on the question of Manfred, which I interpret, are you happy with the speed the governments are executing or implementing their data services?
I think the ambitions are high, but the governments are always running a bit behind on technology. So I think that makes sense. Like I said, I come from port logistics, container logistics, and I see a lot more happening there than in the dry bulk logistics. I was happier at the container side, but at the dry bulk logistics, I'm a little bit less happy. I think we can speed up things, but I see in the 1.5 years that I'm in this sector right now, a lot of good initiatives like we have today. So I think the ambitions are high, but we can speed up.
Could you give us an example of what specifically you would want to have in the bulk sector?
Well, like I said, our shippers have to make different declarations for basically the same things.
Yeah, so it's not information provision about the infrastructure. It's rather the other way around. We, as an industry, have to provide
both ways. So it's business to government, government to business. Okay. But because I think a lot of information is available yet, especially when on the Rhine we have a lot of traffic there with URIS, with risk before, also with water levels.
So do you expect a lot of FT?
Yeah, I'm still looking into what it really means for us, but I have good hopes for it.
Okay, let's switch to your neighbor, Manfred.
Manfred is always a specialist in asking the right questions. So I think it is straight to the point. I think if you ask me personally, no, I'm not happy with the speed and also not with the level of integration. I think what we are missing here definitely is an interaction in between policymakers, authorities, and the private business.
On a national level?
On all levels. I mean, if you listen to the presentations which you have had today, I mean, one statement was we produced 1,000 papers. We don't show it now, but you can see it in quarter number 3, but we want to implement it in quarter number 4. I mean, how should that work? I mean, if the private businesses were a part of finding the solution for it, then it will work, of course. But at least for our sense on the Danube, and for the ones I know on the Danube, I mean, the market makers or the bigger ones, which are really, I mean, transporting a big part of the business. None of us was involved in any of these processes because it is only concerned, I know, to the Western European countries. But that interconnects not the waterways, which we at the end want. We want the Danube to be connected with the Rhine and so on. So. No, good. Not happy.
We have an intervention from the people online. Thierry.
Yeah, there are several questions online, and there's a statement from Mr. Max Nilles that there are studies on value of ECMR compared to paper freight documents for road transport. So there are some euros per document.
But that's not the ECMNI we use in inland waterways.
And then there's a question by Mr. Gert. Let's see, just slightly up. This is always difficult without the mouse. Yeah, Mr. Gerd Daimel, he asks what needs to be done or provided by shippers in regard to digitalization to speed up the process. So how do we speed up the process?
I think that's the $1 million question. We're probably going to answer at the end of the day when we talk about connectivity and data sharing. Yeah.
I have one more from Mr. Jakub Kucharski. What's the idea for education of the existing and future shipboard crews in terms of usage of all the new IWT digitalization features that all of us talk about here today? Did the industry consider specific tailor-made courses for the skippers to fully make use of those new available digital tools?
One of you wanted to? Yep, Dalibor.
I can only speak for what we do at MPRC, and we always try to educate our members, our skippers, on digitalization, on the products that we have, but also try to inspire them with the things that can be possible in the future. We have a lot of older shippers as well. Some didn't even have a smartphone before, and we really need to incorporate that group as well, because digitalization is running and it's coming, so they need to be prepared.
Yeah. I want to slowly get to the end of this discussion, and I want to move to Sim. Because Sim, it is hard to ignore the, the sense of, the urgency, or let's say, things are going too slow. And, here in Brussels, things usually don't go very fast. What do you take away from the calls made by these economic operators? Is that something you can translate back into to the Commission or to DG Move? How would you like to answer these people?
Okay, I must say that I'm not surprised by what has been said by my colleagues here in this panel discussion. That is nothing new, but I think everybody has to play his own role, and of course we have to collaborate. But I think there's a different, if you look from the perspective of the Commission and of the perspective of the Member States. The objective of the Commission is to create a regulatory and policy framework in which the digitalization can take place. We are here to make regulations, new standards, updating standards, but then it's up not only to the Member States, but also to the sector to pick up these tools. And of course, I know that the collaboration between the Commission and Member States and all actors involved could improve, but I would like to refer, for example, to the NIADES expert group meetings and the DINA expert group meetings, where all stakeholders come together, and I would like to reach out to all of them to be more an active partner in these consultation forums, where we can sit together and have a good discussion of what is needed to improve the digitalization of the sector.
So this is also an appeal to economic operators to participate probably much more than they do today in these kinds of fora.
Yes, and not only the economic operators, but also the member states, because a lot of time they say the people in Brussels, but making use of those consultation forums is one way of getting in touch with the Commission and have an exchange of view on certain topics.
Thank you, Sim. One last, that's then the last, Jerry, because otherwise we have to catch up a little bit on time.
Yeah, it's a remark or question or statement by Mr. Manfred Weiner. In the example of transport of dangerous goods, the contribution by industry could be participation in the already elaborated data-based digital transport document. And apparently barging industry, in opposition to road and rail, is very reluctant, and they are apparently not present.
I think that's also a topic we could come back to in the afternoon, because this really relates to FT and to electronic versions and identity management questions. I mean, this is kind of new, I guess, for inland waterway transport. Cus, I said, well, it's hard to ignore you, Cus. But then this is really the last remark. I keep the microphone in my hand.
I'm really pleased with what you said, Herfried, but I'm really disappointed as well because, and as Manfred said, we are working for more than 20 years on providing information from the authority sides to the users, and I assume you're one of the users. And Sim is working on the revision of the directive. Do you need such a revision, or have you other questions to the authorities to provide in the coming year for your organization? What I feel is that you hate his documents because it's too thick. I can imagine, but what do you need exactly?
No, no, I don't hate anything. I mean, it's just about business. Come on, I mean, it's about speaking also fact and speaking out, I think, what the industry needs. And I can only speak on behalf of our members from ProDanube International, and I can speak on behalf of our own company. I don't know how policy is made. It's none of my business. Yeah, I'm in the private business sector. I don't know why we need a revision of RIS when in the RIS directive is already so many things standing in. I mean, I think there are 2 RIS directives already, one after each other. I think in the latest one there are so many clever things standing in there. What should be transferred on information to the shipping industry, and it's not available. It's not from ice. I mean, just take simple things like pre-warnings for storms, closing of the waterways because of ice, closing because of high waters. This is available only maybe in 30% of the countries. And when we are talking about our business, we have to see all the countries. We have to see the entire supply chain. It doesn't help if it works in Austria perfectly, and it does, and in some other countries as well. But if in the middle you have 6 countries where it doesn't work, and you can't just use it.
This is really the harmonized implementation of RIS. There's only one RIS directive, by the way. There was not. But you know, that's the way Europe is. I mean, we are 27 countries at different speeds, and it's sometimes not good enough. That's the message you bring here in a very good way, I guess. And with that, I'm going to close the discussion for this morning part.